Okay, this question asks, a subduction zone is usually associated with what? Continental divergent boundary, oceanic divergent boundary, ocean continental convergent boundary, or continental transform boundary. So we have two divergent boundaries here, one oceanic, one continental, and then one transform boundary and one convergent boundary. Okay. Quick reminder of the boundaries. Remember, the plates are like what's represented here. Australian plate, Filipino plate. They can be large, they can be small, like the Juan de Fuca plate. Now, the boundaries between the plates is what's represented by these lines here, that they are either red, orange in this case, or black. Okay, you don't necessarily see them all with these colors, but in this particular image they're represented with those colors. Now, the boundaries are borders between different plates. We have these arrows that tell us how the plates are moving around those boundaries. For example, when this arrow is up and this arrow is down, that tells us the Australian plate at this location is moving in this direction and the Antarctic plate is moving in this direction. So they are moving apart. That's a divergent boundary. While here, it tells us that the Australian plate is moving in this direction and the Pacific plate is moving in this direction. So that tells us that's a convergent plate boundary. They move towards each other. That's a convergent boundary. Now this one here, one is moving this way while the other one is sideswiping it this way. So the Australian plate is moving this way and the Pacific plate is moving this way. That's what we call a transform boundary. Now, what we mean by oceanic, or continental is what's in the boundary. For example, when we look here, both sides of the boundary, we have ocean. So it is oceanic convergent plate boundary. Here again, ocean on both sides. So it is oceanic divergent plate boundary. In this image here, we don't see very well, actually, probably here, it's a little bit hidden here, but it looks like we have a continental divergent plate boundary here. Okay, but here is continental convergent plate boundary. Now here, that's ocean in one side, continent in one side, so that's oceanic, continental, convergent plate boundary. Now, what do we get out of the plate boundaries? If they are divergent boundaries, it does not matter if they are oceanic, continental, or continental, oceanic for our purposes for this course. The main thing, what we get from divergent boundaries, the boundaries are moving away from each other. So what are they going to do? They are going to break the crust. And lava is going to ooze out, resulting in new crust, but really mainly volcanic eruptions. So what we get out of divergent boundaries, small, shallow earthquakes, tiny earthquakes, but all the time volcanic activity, because the plates are moving apart, breaking the crust. Now, if they happen in the ocean, we have seafloor spread. Transform boundaries, that's when they sideswipe each other. They result only on large earthquakes. The intricate one is convergent boundaries. They also result in large earthquakes. Think of head-on collisions. Head-on collisions shake both people and cars. Same thing. head-on collisions of plate tectonics will shake both plates. Now, if they are both oceanic, along with large earthquakes, we get volcanoes. Volcanic islands in this case. If one is oceanic and the other is continental, we get volcanic mountains. Okay, so what happens here? They are head-on collision. The oceanic is more dense than the continental, so it goes under the continental, producing the volcanic mountain. What happens there is what we call subduction. Like in a submarine, it goes under, subduction. So we get a subduction as part of that process, resulting in volcanic mountains. If they were both continental plates, if the boundary is along the continent at both ends of the border, at both sides of the boundary, then we don't get volcanic activity. We get mountains. So in which cases do we get volcanic activities? Divergent boundaries, oceanic-oceanic convergent, oceanic-continental convergent. Also this results in subduction. Where do we get seafloor spreading? Divergent boundaries. Where do we get large earthquakes, transform boundaries, and any type of convergent boundary? Where do we get small earthquakes? Divergent boundaries. So in this case, the question is asking, where do we get a subduction zone? We cannot get it from divergent plates, so both of these are out. We cannot get it from a transform. There is no way if one plate goes under another one if they are sideswiping each other or if they are moving apart. When are they going to get? When can we get a plate going under another? When we are going to have a head-on collision which is convergent plate boundary. So this is the correct answer.